Sponsored by Brilliant. This tiny component controls current, if you wire it correctly. This is a transistor, and this is a MOSFET. Engineers use them in basically every single circuit, and beginners constantly confuse them. It doesn't help that some MOSFETs look exactly like transistors, and if you choose the wrong one, they release magic smoke. So how do you tell them apart? And are MOSFETs and transistors just relays? Well, at first glance, yeah, kind of, because they all switch things on and off. But these two could do so much more. Let me explain. A relay is mechanical. It physically moves metal contacts. That's why it makes those satisfying old-fashioned clicks. Inside, we have a coil of wire. When current flows through the coil, it creates a magnetic field which pulls a spring-loaded arm across and closes another circuit. If we turn the current off, the magnetic field collapses. The spring pulls the arm back and the circuit opens again. Simple. Relays are brilliant because a tiny current can control a much larger current. For example, a DC-powered temperature sensor can switch on a dangerous AC mains-powered fan. That's extremely useful, unless you need speed. A relay might switch a few times per second, but a computer processor switches billions of times per second. A relay trying to do that would sound like a machine gun before destroying itself. So engineers needed something faster, much faster. The solution? The bipolar junction transistor, or BJT for short, although most people refer to this as just a transistor. This is also a BJT transistor. It's just easier to open because when we look inside, there is just a tiny piece of semiconductor material. There's no springs, no moving parts, just cheap alien technology. But where's the smoke? Ah, there it is. The semiconductor allows transistors to switch insanely fast, and it doesn't wear out, unless you make a mistake, which it celebrates with a little firework display. Transistors usually have 3 pins, the emitter, base, and collector. Simple, except the pin order changes depending on the part. Oh, and this one only has 2 pins, but we'll ignore that one for now. Luckily, manufacturers print long part numbers in tiny fonts on the front. These don't expand, so you have to zoom in manually and then scrunch your face and tilt it a few times so you can see it. And then you have to try and find the datasheet so you can find the order of the pins. Or you can use a component tester which automatically identifies the device and pins. So how do we use the transistor? Well, a transistor is basically used to block current in a circuit until you supply current to the base pin. These currents combine, so there's no isolation between circuits. But you can turn a load on and off. You can even use it to control a relay. Or you can build simple self-controlling circuits like this LED flasher. Now, an easy way to understand transistors is by imagining water flowing through a pipe. We can block the flow with a disc. We can then connect a smaller pipe to the main one and place a swing gate into this. We can connect them with a pulley. The further the swing gate opens, the more the disc opens and the more water can flow in the main pipe. But the swing gate is heavy, so a small amount of water won't be enough to open it. A certain amount is required to force the gate open. The more water we have flowing in this small pipe, the further the gate opens and allows more current to flow in the main pipe. But here is where transistors stop behaving like switches or relays. Because instead of being fully on or fully off, the transistor can partially open. Notice a small current is able to control a very large current. We call this current gain. Different transistors have different amounts of gain, which is listed in the datasheet, and those component testers will also estimate this for you. It also measures the voltage needed to begin turning the transistor on. But here's where it gets interesting. Because the transistor has gain, we can use it to amplify signals. Take a microphone, for example. It produces tiny electrical signals, far too weak to drive a speaker directly. So we connect the microphone signal to the base bin. As the microphone voltage changes slightly, it causes large changes in the collector current, allowing us to amplify the signal and drive the speaker. We also find transistors inside Class B amplifiers. Here, 2 transistors work together. One handles the positive half of the waveform, the other handles the negative half, allowing the amplifier to drive speakers more efficiently. But notice we use 2 different transistor types, the NPN and the PNP. So now we need to talk about what's actually happening inside these things. Because inside the transistor, each pin connects to a layer of semiconductor material. Some are N-type and some are P-type. N-type means the silicon was mixed with something like phosphorus to create extra electrons. Electrons are negatively charged, so we call this N-type. P-type means the silicon was mixed with something like boron. That creates holes where electrons can sit, and we consider these to be positive. So we call this a P-type layer. When these materials are joined together, they form a PN junction, and this creates a barrier. If we apply a voltage in one direction, the barrier shrinks and current can flow. We call this forward bias. But reverse the voltage and the barrier expands. Now the current is blocked. Inside an NPN transistor, we have two of those junctions. So normally, current cannot flow through this device. But if we apply voltage between the base and the emitter, one of those barriers collapses. Now electrons can start to move through the transistor. Then, if we apply another voltage across the collector and the emitter, the second barrier collapses also, and that allows current to flow through the main circuit. That's it. Everyone recognizes this as a transistor, except this is actually a voltage regulator, and this one is an infrared emitter. This is a JFET. This is a reference voltage. This one's an SCR. This is a temperature sensor. And this is a triac. They are all completely different components using the same shape to save the manufacturer's time and money. However, transistors come in so many different packages. Some are smaller than a grain of rice. If you drop one of these, you'll never see it again. Tell me if you can spot the transistors in this photo. Comment down below for your chance to win one of our engineering mugs. Anyway, BJTs have a major weakness. To keep the transistor on, we need a continuous flow of current into the base pin. If the load becomes large, so does the base current, which wastes a lot of energy and creates a lot of heat, and electronics don't like heat. Luckily, along came the MOSFET, which changed everything. MOSFETs also have 3 pins. So did they keep the same name to make life easy? No, they called them the gate, drain, and source. Like a transistor, the MOSFET blocks current in a circuit until we apply a voltage to the gate pin. Then current can flow from drain to source. We can use MOSFETs to switch relays. We can make simple motor controllers, or rapidly switch them on and off thousands of times per second with pulses, which is used to efficiently dim lights, control motors, and control switch mode power supplies. Because they switch so fast with very little power loss, all modern electronics depend on them. But there's 2 problems with MOSFETs. Firstly, they sometimes refuse to turn off. That's because the gate pin acts like a capacitor. It stores electrical charge. We can even measure this with the component tester. When the MOSFET switches from off to on, a burst of electrons suddenly rushes into the gate pin for a split second. So if we connect this to a microcontroller, that inrush current can damage the board. So we add a resistor to limit the current. Problem solved. Except now the transistor gets stuck on. We can see that with this simple circuit. The lamp is off. But if we connect the gate wire to the 9-volt supply, the lamp turns on. Current now flows through the lamp. Simple. But when we disconnect the gate wire, the lamp stays on. That is a problem. The MOSFET is storing charge on the gate pin. But if we connect the gate to ground, the pin can discharge, so the lamp turns off. So how do we overcome that? Well, we can't use a wire directly because that will just cause a short circuit. Instead, we use a high-value resistor. Now, the gate receives voltage normally, but when the controller switches off, the stored charge drains away. Problem solved. An easy way to understand MOSFETs is with water flowing through a pipe. We can block the flow with a disc. There is a hole in one side of the disc, so if we slide it across, we can let water flow. The disc is spring-loaded, so it is normally closed. Another pipe connects to this disc, and the pipe is filled with water. If a small pressure is applied to this pipe, it won't be enough to move the heavy disc, but at a certain pressure, the disc will begin to move and allow the water to flow. As the pressure increases, the disc moves fully across, so the water flow is at its maximum. But now the gate is stuck because the pressure is stored in the control pipe. However, if we release the pressure, the disc will move back and stop the flow of water. That's basically how the MOSFET works. Inside a MOSFET, we just have a tiny piece of semiconductor material. This is made from a P-type semiconductor with two N-type materials. Notice we have joined the two materials here, so we have a PN junction. The drain connects to one side and the source connects to the other. The body typically connects to the source pin. We then have a layer of silicon dioxide insulation over the semiconductors. A metal contact pad is placed on top of this, which forms the gate terminal. When a voltage is applied to the gate pin, it forms an electric field through the insulation, just like a capacitor. This creates the metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor, which is far too long, so we just call it a MOSFET. If we apply a voltage from the drain to source, no current will flow. The barrier is blocking the path. But when a positive voltage is applied to the gate pin, an electric field is generated through the insulator and into the P-type layer, just like a capacitor. Electrons within the P-type layer will be attracted towards this, but they can't pass through. As the gate voltage increases, this attraction becomes stronger, pulling more electrons in. Some of the holes will be filled, while others are repelled away. These electrons collect and start to form a channel of negative charge, which is why it's called an N-channel MOSFET. This channel will allow current to flow from drain to source. The point at which just enough voltage is applied to the gate to allow current to flow is called the threshold voltage. That is also measured on the component tester here. But to make life difficult, MOSFETs also share the same packages with components like voltage regulators, SCRs, IGBTs, triacs, and special diodes. And we can also get MOSFETs in other packages and size, although that does allow our electronic devices to become incredibly small. So, which one should we use? Well, each one solves a different problem. Relays are great for safely isolating circuits and switching high voltage AC loads, but they're mechanical, so they're slow, noisy, and eventually wear out. BJT transistors solve the speed problem. They're cheap, simple, and brilliant for analog amplification and basic switching circuits. But they need continuous current flowing into the base pin to stay on. That wastes energy and creates heat. And we solve that with MOSFETs, which use voltage on the gate pin, so almost no power is needed to control them. That makes them extremely efficient. They also switch incredibly fast, generate less heat, and they can control huge amounts of current. So they dominate modern electronic circuits. The problem is, designing circuits like this require a lot of maths, which can be difficult to remember. So I use Brilliant to practice because of the clear visuals. But down here is their new personal tutor, which I asked for help, and it interacted with me, guiding me with questions and breaking it down step by step until I could solve the problem myself. Brilliant have just launched an entirely new learning experience, a visual, interactive tutor that sits right on the screen with you. It feels like having a super intelligent personal tutor for math and coding that actually sees what you're doing. It draws diagrams, asks guiding questions, and adapts to how you think in real time. It doesn't just give you the answer. You learn by solving problems, not memorizing. Brilliant have thousands of lessons covering science, computers, AI, and math. I like that the hands-on lessons are fully interactive through problem solving, which makes learning fun. And there's a full curriculum designed by experts for you to explore and become a brilliant engineer. I think you'll like this too, and you can get started with Brilliant's tutor for free by clicking the link below or scanning the QR code. You can upgrade to premium to unlock all courses, and right now our viewers can save 20% off an annual subscription at brilliant.org/the engineering mindset. Do check them out, links down below. Hey, I'd just like to give a huge shout out to our incredible Patreon and channel members. Thank you so much for supporting us. And if you'd like to see your name here, along with priority access to our content and behind the scenes footage, links down below for how to join.